Well, few know more about the policies like the new one announced by DHS on immigrants seeking asylum or the border wall than Homeland Security Secretary Kirstjen Nielsen. She joins us now on this very critical day for the president's immigration policies. Madam Secretary, great to have you with us.
Great to see you.
Okay, so let's talk about what was rolled out today. A bit of this is that people seeking asylum coming through Mexico to the U.S., not Mexicans, but other citizens of other countries, they will be turned around to wait in Mexico while their asylum is pending here in the U.S.
That's exactly right. So it'll do a couple things. One, it will decrease illegal immigration, which is what we've been trying to do. Two, it will help us focus on those that have a legitimate claim. Three, it will reduce those that don't, because what we find, and as you know, one of our biggest concerns is we've had a 3,000% increase in asylum claims, and unfortunately only 1 in 10 are actually granted asylum. So this will help reduce that, let us focus on those who need it, but reduce the overall illegal flow.
Okay, so reading a little bit today about concerns about how this will work in Mexico, the logistics there, the Washington Post has a piece saying because asylum cases can drag on for months or years, it's unclear how migrants would remain safe with access to food and shelter or how they would access legal services. It also remains unclear how Mexico will sell the deal to a domestic audience, which has resisted the idea of embracing tens of thousands of Central American migrants. Also in that piece, Washington Post, they say this. Adam Isaacson, a border security analyst at the Washington office on Latin America, says this: wait times for asylum hearings are now routinely exceeding 1,200 days. That's 3 years. Is Mexico really prepared to host hundreds of thousands of people for that long while they wait for overworked U.S. asylum judges to get to these people's cases?
So what we did was we took this as unilateral action, as you know, under our statutory authority. But of course, we have let the Mexicans know we were going to do it, and we've been having discussions for quite some time. So in return, they are offering shelter, they're offering education, they're offering medical care. They also, by the way, are offering asylum, and this is important because, again, for those who really need asylum, we encourage them to do it as soon as possible in that journey. They're also offering work permits, and in some cases, very specific jobs. They have about 20,000 job offers that they've collected and offered. So what we expect are the numbers will actually go down substantially, because if you need asylum, you can get it in Mexico. If you need a job, you can get a job. So we're really talking only about a very small portion who will continue to feel that they need to get asylum in the United States.
Because this was a unilateral action, how confident are you in their ability and their willingness to do this long term when we are talking about years of a wait for people?
Yes. So the next step, of course, is more legal paperwork. So we'll work on a technical agreement with them, but we have our teams working on that now. I'm very optimistic. They take human rights very, very seriously. They take protection of migrants very, very seriously. That's why we're calling it the Migrant Protection Plan on our side. So we will work together to make sure that those are abided by.
Is any of this in concert with the $10.6 billion in aid packages announced earlier this week through, I believe, the State Department, helping Central America and some specific portions of Mexico as well? Is that part of sweetening the pot for them that they would want to help on an arrangement like this?
Yeah, I think, you know, the aid is something that President Lopez Obrador campaigned on. It's something he feels very strongly about. It's something that we've been talking to the Mexicans and Central Americans about for quite some time, because as we reduce the pull factors in the United States, we also want to reduce the push factors there, so to help stabilize. So they're happening at the same time, but they're both part of larger conversations we've been having for quite some time.
Okay, so this is just the latest round in what's been going on at the border. I mean, for months there have been tensions there have been all kinds of events that we'll talk about, but the president has talked about wanting this to be a tougher crackdown on immigration, illegal immigration, and the border. Here's what he told our Chris Wallace.
Are you happy with Kirstjen Nielsen at DHS?
Well, I like her a lot. I respect her a lot. She's very smart. I want her to get much tougher, and we'll see what happens there, but I want to be extremely tough.
Is this part of the getting tougher? How's the relationship now?
Well, first of all, this is not something that happened overnight. So this is something that I've been working very hard on for a very long time, most of the time that I've been Secretary of DHS. But the president and I have a great relationship. Look, he's making it clear every day. He will protect Americans. He will secure the border. And he wants to make sure that we all do everything we can to do just that.
Okay, you know there will be legal challenges to this. There have been to any number of things this administration has done. We are waiting on numerous fronts at a number of different legal venues and courts that are ruling here. We have a ruling out of a federal judge here in D.C., Judge Sullivan, who is now pushing back on this idea that people cannot, as asylum claims, come here saying they fear gang violence or domestic violence. He says that violates the law, and you're going to have to take those people.
So we're reviewing that court case. What that was a case that former Attorney General took. Basically, I think it was the matter of AB is the one that he's talking about. But this goes to the heart of asylum. Asylum is a discretionary grant, and it's made to be made one by one. So we should review one by one. So what the Attorney General in that case was trying to reverse is giving groups asylum based on a claim. Now, there is a particular social group. That is one of the 5 reasons for asylum. So if you qualify there, you qualify there. But when it comes to those particular issues that were raised in that case, he was suggesting, let's look at them one by one and make sure they meet the law.
Okay, so let's talk about the wall itself. Obviously, it is the center of a contentious, raging battle on Capitol Hill over funding at this point and whether or not it's going to trigger a government shutdown. But you know there are critics on the right who think the president is not standing up to something that he said repeatedly during the campaign that he would do, which is just get this wall built. It's going to be a physical barrier. It's going to happen. Breitbart writing this, the big, beautiful border wall promised during the 2016 campaign is being built as a see-through barrier of steel slats. They point to the president's description of that. They go on and call it Trump's concession and rhetorical turnaround. They say it comes after Hill Democrats used their leverage on the business-first leadership of the GOP and among Trump's Hill outreach deputies to repeatedly block construction of his favored concrete walls. Has the wall changed? Is the president making a concession? How would you characterize it?
Well, first I would just say walls work. We know they do. We've seen it in San Diego. We've seen it in Yuma. Everywhere we have that physical infrastructure, we see illegal immigration drop by 95%. The president will continue to advocate for what the men and women of the Border Patrol say they need, and this is what it is. It's a physical infrastructure along with the technology and personnel that go to it. The important thing to understand is there's 2,000 miles of border. So what we need in one location is not the same as what we need in another location. In fact, in a desert, we have a floating wall. We wouldn't need that in other locations. Some places we have levee wall. So the wall hasn't changed. It's just going to meet the operational requirements as described and articulated by our Border Patrol agents, and that's what the president continues to advocate for. We got to get the wall done.